Hello my sweet bestie angels, welcome back. Every month I film a video where my TBR prompt jar chooses my monthly TBR. I personally really enjoy having a monthly TBR, and I would say most of the time I'm decent at achieving the TBR. Like, I'll usually read more than half. Sometimes I fully complete it, sometimes I barely make a dent, but most of the time I feel like I do better than 50%. However, last month I only read 2 out of 6, and that's just not my best work. So I thought this month we could put a bit more of a focus on it. And so this is my monthly TBR for the month of May, and in today's video we're going to see how many of these I can get through. However, we are over halfway through the month already, and so I have read a couple of these. I'll quickly run through the books that are on my monthly TBR. First of all, we have Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. We also have The Ornithologist Field Guide to Love. We have The Wedding People. We have Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. We have The Rose Bargain, and lastly we have Julie Chan is Dead. But I have already managed to read Julie Chan is Dead and The Rose Bargain, so 2 down, 4 to go, and hopefully this month we'll get 6 out of 6. And I do know which book I'm going to start with because it may or may not be my current read, and that is Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. I started this 2 days ago when I was filming my ultimate book video, and so this is going to be the first one that we tackle. So far I'm about 100 pages in and I'm honestly really enjoying it. I've seen such mixed reviews about this one. Some people love it, some people don't. Right now I am loving it. I love Abby Jimenez's writing. I love how she writes characters, and I love how she does depth. She always seems to do like a rom-com with a lot of depth, and I'm not gonna lie, I feel like I end up crying in most of her books. So I'm really nervous about this one, but so far I really like the characters. I really like their banter. The guy's a bit more like reserved, mysterious, and I really like that, and the girl is very witty, very charismatic. So I'm very intrigued to see how I end up feeling about this one. Reading update, I am up to page 160, chapter 21. I'm almost halfway but not quite. I never explained what this book is about. So the brief synopsis is we have Samantha who works in marketing, and we have Xavier who is a vet. And Samantha ends up finding a little stray kitten and taking it to the vet, who happens to be Xavier, to find out if it's healthy and if it needs any medication, anything like that, because she wants to adopt it, take it home, look after it, you know? And so that's kind of their meet cute. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but that is the very vague version of it. Xavier is known for being kind of grumpy. He doesn't really smile very often. He had a really rough upbringing, and so he's just quite reserved, quiet, mysterious. And Samantha is witty and funny and very charming, and they just hit it off right away. And they end up going on a first date that ends up going way longer than they expected it to. However, at the end of the date, Samantha is like, I really enjoyed this, I had a lot of fun, we get along really well, but I'm actually leaving tomorrow to go home to where my parents live because my mum has early onset dementia and I need to be there with my family to help care for her, and also just to try and spend as much time with my mum as I can while she is somewhat healthy. Feels very much like right person, wrong timing. But they go their separate ways. Samantha goes home to her parents' house. Xavier stays where he lives because he has his clinic there, which he owns, but they continue to think about each other. So we are just following this story along as they try to figure out what to do, because logistically being together just doesn't make any sense, but romantically and emotionally that's all they want to do. And again, because of Samantha's mum's situation, it's just really sad because you're watching someone that Samantha loves so dearly just forget so much. Forget who she is, forget who her family is, forget so much of her own life and just all of the memories that she spent all of her life making, which is just such a crazy concept to even think about. And it is definitely interesting because as someone who does not know really much at all about dementia, hearing this story and this example of someone who has early onset dementia, I think her mum is about 55, and so seeing that happen to someone relatively young, I don't want to say it's even more sad because it's just sad in every situation, but it's just, you just don't think that would happen, but obviously it happens. So that part of the story, very difficult to read. Very difficult to read because you're watching her mum just struggle to do these things that you know she should be able to do. Just like simple things like take care of herself, and she can't drive anymore. She can't even really look after her own personal hygiene. And Samantha watching her dad have to go through that with the love of his life and watch her siblings navigate that, watch her grandma navigate that. It's just sad. But I'm very intrigued to see where the romance is going to go, because I don't understand how they're going to make it work for both of them. But I really like the concept of right person, wrong time, because it's just a little bit more interesting than having an actual conflict within the relationship, if that makes sense. Like, it's nothing to do with them as people, it's their situation. Abby Jimenez just writes situations very well and writes families really well also. But I can see why people say it's so sad. I have about 40 pages left. Everything is bad, everything is sad, everything is fallen apart, and I'm literally like, how are they gonna fix this? I can see why everyone says this book is so sad now, because not only is it sad in one way, it is just sad in so many ways. Like, our two main characters, well, especially one of them, just has like bad thing after bad thing after bad thing happening to them, and it's all out of their control. Like, none of the things that are happening are like consequences for bad decisions or bad mistakes. It's literally just like, sometimes life just sucks and is really, really hard. Our main character just has to deal with that, and that is just so hard to read about. Like, I just want to finish it because I need a happily ever after. I'm assuming there'll be a happily ever after. I'll be shocked if there's not. If there's not, it'll feel like a little bit of a waste of time. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know. I'm just so like, like, I'm not having fun. This is not a rom-com. This is not a rom-com. Last night I ended up finishing Say You'll Remember Me. So obviously I wanted to give you guys my final thoughts, but I don't even know what my thoughts are. If I'm being honest, I think that hearing that this was a disappointment for so many people led me to have a really low expectation. And so when I read it and really enjoyed it, I was so surprised. However, I'm trying to work out if I would have had that same reaction if I hadn't have gone in with low expectations. Because if I had read this on April 1st when it had released, and if I had gone in being like, this is one of my favorite authors, it's her new release, it's such a highly anticipated release for me, like, I can't wait, and if I went in really excited and really expectant, would I have been disappointed? And it's just so hard to know, because I can obviously only talk on the experience that I had, and I think going in with very low expectations may have actually ended up helping me have a really good experience. But also in saying that, I would like to think I would have thought the same thing if I'd gone in with high expectations. I definitely don't think this is my favorite Abby Jimenez book. So unfortunately, the pattern of her books getting better and better as they go on, which before this book, I feel like I could say that. Like, I feel like before this book, I was like, every book that she writes, I just think it gets better and better. Maybe I have some like personal attachment to some of the books more than others. Like, I think I have more of a personal attachment to yours truly, but I think Just for the Summer may have been written better. And I think Abby Jimenez as an author has improved over time. But I do think, yeah, this book did like break that pattern for me, because it wasn't a 5-star read for me. However, I still did really, really like it. I love how Abby Jimenez writes stories. I especially love how she writes characters and how she writes complicated situations. Like, I feel like she always puts her characters in some sort of complicated, layered situation. Like, it's never simple, it's never easy. There's always something that is in the way, which obviously most books, there's some sort of conflict, but I like the way that Abby Jimenez writes conflict. And I did really like that in this book, the couple was perfect for each other. Like, they adored each other. All they wanted was to spend more time together, and their conflict was pretty much completely outside of themselves. It was the situations they were in, it was the logistics of being a couple. It wasn't actually being in a relationship. Like, I don't really feel like there were any like issues within the relationship necessarily. It was all just not being able to be together logistically. And I really liked that because it just felt unique. And I'm not saying no one has ever written that before, but I just feel like it's not something that you read in every single book. Like the amount of times I've read a rom-com with a miscommunication trope where someone overheard something wrong or someone didn't tell someone something that ended up being a big deal. Like you see some things happen often, but this felt a little bit unique, which I really, really appreciated, because I feel like when you read a lot of romance, or when you read a lot of any genre, you start to notice patterns, and sometimes things just don't hit as much as they could when they feel repetitive, and that's not the book's fault. But just being able to write a romance that felt unique, I really appreciated that. I also think Samantha's family situation. So Samantha's mum has early onset dementia, and when her mum started noticing her health deteriorating, one of the things she requested, and like the main thing that she requested, was to stay at home with her family as long as possible. So her family, which is Samantha, Samantha's dad, Samantha's brother, Samantha's sister, and her grandmother, they are all working as hard as they can to look after their mum, who needs a full-time caretaker at this point, and just to try and make her life the best possible and make sure she gets the best care possible. Like that is the whole situation, but it's a lot of work even between all of those different people, because all of them work. Her sister's a single mom. Like there's a lot of layers going on. So again, that was something I've never read about. I feel like I've never come across that situation before, and it was just something that I've never really considered in that exact way, which I thought was very, very insightful. However, it was very sad to watch the family dynamics and watch the mother's health deteriorate, and just like seeing someone that you love, just see them disappear in front of you, even though they are physically still there, their mind is just slowly like unraveling. Like that would be so hard, and it's something that I have never seen personally, or never like dealt with personally. So again, I feel like this was very insightful in that way. But gosh, was this book sad. Like there was just like bad scenario after bad scenario, and things would just keep getting worse, and it felt so heavy to read, and I didn't love that, especially just like going into a rom-com, which I don't know, I wouldn't call this a rom-com, and if I was recommending it to people, I would just say beware. It is really sad. I personally wouldn't read it if you aren't in a good mental state, because again, it just felt heavy. Like every time I picked up this book, I was just hoping it would be happy, and there were happy moments 100%. Like there were so many happy moments within this, and watching two people fall in love was so beautiful, but it was just covered with heaviness and sadness, and that was just difficult to read about. So I do think it's worth the read. I really liked the story, but would I ever go back and reread it again? I don't know if I would. I think I would really struggle to go back and reread this, just knowing the heaviness of it, and I didn't like that feeling. It was beautiful in so many ways, but again, just really heavy. Whereas I would go back and read all of her other books 100 times. But yeah, I don't know if I'd want to go back and relive this like I would want to relive her other books. I'm trying to figure out what to rate it. I think minimum 4 stars, maybe 4.25. I don't think it's 5 stars. I don't think it's 4.5, but it's either like a 4-star or a 4.25, because I still really, really liked it. I was so invested. I was so attached to these characters, not only the main couple, but also the friends, the family. Hank was maybe the best character in this book. Like he was an angel sent from above. I loved Hank so much, and I'm so glad he was part of this story, because he just came in, and like I said, he was just an angel, heaven sent. I loved Hank. I loved him. But yeah, I was just so invested. I was so attached. The characters felt so real. The situation felt so real to me. Overall, I really liked it. I think my main criticism is just that it was a little bit too sad for me, especially like when you think you're picking up a rom-com and it ends up being super heavy. So I would just use that as a trigger warning, I guess. Just be like, yeah, it's fun, it's beautiful, but it is sad. And also like the romance is a huge part of the story, but so is the other situations, like caring for the family and stuff like that. Like that takes up a lot of the story, so that's something to be aware of. I also wish we got more of the siblings. I feel like I just wanted more from their story. I feel like we almost saw inside of their life, but we didn't quite see enough for me to be satisfied, and I don't know if that's because Abby Jimenez wants to continue their stories elsewhere in future books or not. I'm assuming the friendship group of Xavier could be where the next stories may go, because I feel like that's just like my guess based on how Abby Jimenez writes books. I assume this is like the first book in like a new set of side characters, so my guess would be the next books could be Xavier's friend group. I could be wrong, that's just my guess. But I really wanted to see more of Samantha's sister and Samantha's brother specifically. I would have loved to hear more about like what their life looked like, because they both felt a little bit, not even underdeveloped, like there's definitely a story there. I just wish we knew more of it. So, I mean, I would love them to get their own books. I guess we'll see. Anyway, those are all of my very scattered random thoughts about this book. Overall, really enjoyed it. It was just sad. Moving on to our next book. I decided to pick up The Wedding People, and I've been reading this for most of the day now, and I'm actually already 150 pages into it. I've been kind of bouncing between listening to it and reading it physically, but I've kind of put off updating you guys because I don't know what to say about it. If you guys don't know what this one is about, it is a pretty morbid premise, but in this story we are following Phoebe. She is going through a lot. A lot of her life is just kind of falling apart, and so she has decided to take herself to a beautiful hotel in Rhode Island. She saw an advertisement for it in a magazine, and as soon as she saw it, she was just like, that is my happy place, like I need to go there. However, the reason that she is there is to end her life. Again, like I said, very morbid premise. Definitely a trigger warning. Wouldn't pick this book up unless you're okay with reading about that kind of discussion. However, when she gets to the hotel, everyone else that is staying in the hotel are staying there because they're attending a wedding. And so the bride and groom have essentially booked out the whole hotel, except for the one room that Phoebe is staying in for their wedding. They've booked it out for the whole week, and they've got all of these wedding plans, and all their friends and family are there. And Phoebe realizes this as soon as she gets to the hotel, because literally everyone else there is there for the wedding. And she quickly meets the bride, and within their first interaction, Phoebe tells the bride what she is there to do. Like, Phoebe is like, this is what my plans are. And the bride is just like, absolutely not. I will not allow you to do that, purely because it will ruin my wedding. And I just can't have that, which obviously not the most sensitive way to approach the situation, but it is a huge reason why Phoebe does not go through with her plan. But then the book continues to move on, and you're just kind of reading about Phoebe observing all of these wedding people and all of the wedding events, and the bride ends up confiding in Phoebe and kind of just sharing a lot with Phoebe, and they build this weird kind of friendship. So that's kind of the premise of the book. That is what has taken place. I don't really know what the plot of the book is. I don't really know what the point of the book is. It honestly just feels like Phoebe is observing everyone around her. You're reading about Phoebe observing all of the family and all of the friends, the bride and the groom, the family dynamics, the friend dynamics. It's all honestly very interesting. Like, even though there's no plot, I'm fascinated by it. I love just being able to observe everyone and see why they behave certain ways and see what relationships they have with other people. And Phoebe is obviously such an outsider. I don't know why it's so interesting, but I'm finding it very, very interesting. It reminds me a lot of Anxious People by Frederick Bachman, just in the way where you're just getting these small snippets of people and their lives, and sometimes you get a lot of information, sometimes you don't, but I don't know. It reminds me a lot of that. Again, I don't really know where the story is going to go. I don't really know what is going to happen at the end. I'm hoping this is a story of hope. Like, I'm hoping that Phoebe will get to the end of the book and just feel so full of life again and so full of hope and joy. I don't know if that's going to happen. Like, I'm just hoping it's one of those books where it like starts off, she's at rock bottom, she just feels like she has nothing to live for, and by the end of it, maybe she feels like there's a lot to live for. Like, that's what I'm hoping comes from this book. Again, I have no idea if that's going to happen, but that's what I hope is going to happen. It is just a general fiction book. So in my opinion, a lot of general fiction books don't feel like they have a super strong plot. It is usually like slice of life, or it is just someone's life, and maybe it doesn't feel like there's this trying to solve a mystery or trying to fall in love or trying to go on an adventure. Like, it is just what it is, and I'm enjoying it for what it is. I can see why it has mixed reviews. Like, I can see how someone might be like bored by it, or maybe just like, I don't really see the point in it. But for me, I'm really enjoying it. I also think it's a great audiobook, so I think I'll end up listening to a lot of it as an audiobook. Up finishing The Wedding People, and I really liked this. Like, I had a great time reading it. It was one of those books where I was definitely like interested the whole time. It kind of just felt like I was like people watching. It felt kind of similar to The Hotel Nantucket a little bit by Ellen Hildebrand, and also like Anxious People by Frederick Bachman a bit, in that way where you just feel like you're looking into a group of people and observing their behavior, just kind of like analyzing them, which I love. I love people watching. I love observing people's behavior and just like seeing why people do what they do and behave the way that they do. So I really liked that. However, I do not feel like I was attached to any of the characters. I think some of them are purposely unlikable. Some of them were definitely more likable, but I just still didn't really care much, which again, I don't know if that was the point. Like, I don't know if I needed to be super connected, but overall I kind of finished it and was kind of like, okay, I'm ready to move on. I don't think I'm going to really be thinking about these characters or this story, but I enjoyed it while I was reading it. So I think I'm going to give it like 3.5 stars because it was good. I would recommend it, especially maybe if this is like a genre or the type of book that you really love, you might really like it. But for me, I was just like, yeah, cool, that was fun. I'm ready to read something else. I'm very happy that we finished that one. And then I also did start Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. And this is a book that I have put off for a really long time because a lot of people rated it very low when it came out and they read it. And also, this is supposed to be a very spicy book, and that is just not my favorite type of book to read. So I put it off, but then in May, one of the prompts that I got from my TBR jar was something along the lines of like, pick a book that you've heard bad reviews about, or pick a book that someone you know didn't enjoy. And because I'd heard so many bad reviews about this one, I thought it would be the perfect time to pick it up. So I did pick it up. I started reading it and I'm DNFing it. And I'm not shocked that that is what I've decided to do. I'm glad that I gave it a go, and that was kind of my intent. Like, I knew there was a decent chance that it wouldn't be my kind of book, but I just wanted to give it a shot and just see for myself instead of just judging a book by its cover, you know, like not actually giving it a shot. So I gave it a shot and it's just not for me. And I am a little bit sad about this because I do really enjoy Ali Hazelwood as an author, and not enjoying one or two of her books doesn't mean that I don't like her as an author. I still love a lot of her other books. Like, I really enjoyed The Love Hypothesis and Love Theoretically and Check and Mate and Love on the Brain. But yeah, this one just isn't for me, and that is absolutely fine. So obviously we can't like tick this off our TBR, but we have completed this in a sense because DNFing is still completion. So now we only have one more book left on the TBR. I started the Ornithologist Field Guide to Love today, and I'm now about 100 pages in. I think it's about 350 pages, so not quite a third of the way through. I'm honestly so glad that this is our last book, because something like this is exactly what I was in the mood for, especially after finishing Say You'll Remember Me, which was a very heavy book, discussed a lot of just really sad things, and then also The Wedding People, which had a bit of a morbid premise as well, even though it ended up being a bit more on the hopeful side. But yeah, after those two kind of heavier, somewhat more serious books, I think this is just perfect, because this is the epitome of a silly, goofy time, and that is just exactly what I need right now. India Holton writes such fun books with such fun premises, and I feel like the best way to describe her writing is, like I said, silly, goofy. It's just absolutely ridiculous in the best way possible. This is the first book in a new series that she is currently writing. The first two books are out currently, but this is the first book, and it is following two rivals who are competing to win Ornithologist of the Year. And if you don't know what an ornithologist is, because I definitely didn't, it is someone who studies birds. And in this book specifically, we have a lot of magical birds, which is a lot of fun because it ends up being quite high stakes, because some of these birds are literally like killer birds. It's fascinating. But at the beginning of this book, you find out that there is this competition going for Ornithologist of the Year, and whoever can catch this very rare, mysterious bird will win the title. And so we are following two rivals who are competing for this, but in order to beat all of the other ornithologists, they have decided to team up together until they then will have to, I guess, separate and work towards that goal separately. But they decided to kind of work together in a bit of an alliance to get closer to that goal before separating, if that makes sense. But it is very clear that there's an attraction there. They really like each other. It's also set, I actually don't know exactly the time period, but it's somewhat of a historical setting. So there's like horse and carriages, there's no cars or anything like that. And although in this time period women can study and they can work in university settings and things like that, they still aren't recognized in the same way that men are. And there's definitely still a very like proper ladylike way to behave. And it's just one of those romances where it's like a touch of a hand here or eye contact, you know, like those tiny little romantic gestures, because anything more than that would be completely inappropriate, which just creates the best tension in my opinion. I love stories like that. And like I said, India Holton just writes such ridiculous scenarios, so it's just a lot of fun. Like our two main characters just had to stay at an inn overnight because there was a storm, and as you may guess, as a seasoned romance reader, you would be like, oh, surely there's just one bed, but they walk into their room and there are 7 beds in this room, which just literally makes zero sense, but it's just funny because you think it's gonna go one way and it just is completely ridiculous, and I love it. It's just very silly. Our characters are quite clueless, but in a really fun way, but also extremely intelligent as well, because obviously they're very passionate about birds, and even the way that they describe how they feel about each other is often in some sort of like bird terminology, like the way that certain birds interact is how they feel like they're interacting, things like that. It's just fun. I think if you like Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, this would be very much up your alley because it has that academic kind of setting and that academic kind of writing and that very awkward kind of tension between the two characters who really like each other but maybe aren't as like charismatic as some other romance characters, you know. Anyway, it's a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it. I'm having a great time, and I'm just very glad that this is the book that I got to pick up next. I just finished this book maybe like 5 minutes ago, but I wanted to share my thoughts. I honestly don't have too much to add to what I have said previously. It remained to be very silly, very goofy, very ridiculous in the best way possible. It was just a fun time. There were like a couple serious moments. I feel like the author tried to add a little bit of depth, but I think it was almost like too silly goofy that the moments of like depth didn't really hit, and I almost wish that the author didn't even like try, just because it just felt like it was trying to do something that didn't work, if that makes sense. But in saying that, like the moments where they were just being serious about their feelings for one another, like I liked that. I liked those kind of like serious moments, but when they were talking about just like things that they've gone through or just more like character development sort of stuff, it just didn't hit for me. I'm not exactly sure why, but overall I did have a lot of fun. I definitely do not recommend this book if you don't like kind of like cheesy, very, silly, I wish I had another word, but like very silly romances. I feel like it's a very particular type of humor, and I don't think it's like my humor to a T, but I do enjoy this type of humor sometimes, where it's just ridiculous and a little bit over the top and just very ironic in a lot of ways and things like that. And even though it was so silly, I do think the love story was just so cute, and it's one of those stories where the guy is just like obsessed from day dot, like right from the beginning he is obsessed with her, and our female main character definitely takes a little while longer to kind of come around to it. And even when she does find herself having feelings for him, she almost like doesn't want to, and it's just funny the way that she like catches herself like having feelings for this man. She's like, what is going on? Like, it's just fun. And also because both of our main characters are just obsessed with birds and obsessed with studying birds, there's this ultimate goal of tenure, which actually let me look up the actual definition because I don't want to say the wrong thing. To give someone a permanent post, especially as a teacher or lecturer. So from what I gathered, it seems like if you have tenure at a university, it means you just have a permanent position, you have a lot of sway, you have a lot of power, you can make a lot of decisions, and that is both of these characters just like ultimate dream and goal. And so that is brought up throughout the book in a really like funny way, because they'll talk about like these feelings that they have toward each other, like, oh my gosh, like I just like them so much, like I like them almost as much as I want tenure, like just random stuff like that, which is just, it's just so silly. But yeah, like I said earlier, I think if you like Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, I would definitely check out this series because I think there are some similarities. It's not exactly the same. This one feels a bit more like higher stakes than Emily Wilde, not as cozy, but I feel like the characters are quite similar, some of the humor is quite similar, and I feel like fans of Emily Wilde could be fans of this series too. I think overall I'm gonna give it 3.5 stars. I was like, is it like 3.5 or is it more of like a 4-star? But I feel like 4 stars for me is like, I really enjoyed it. And whilst I had a lot of fun with this, it's not something that I feel attached to in any way. I don't really feel connected to the characters. It was a fun time, but I don't really think it's gonna like stick with me. I don't think I'm gonna find myself thinking about it. Maybe I will, and if I do, maybe I'll bump it up to 4 stars. But it was like a very good 3.5. Like, I definitely recommend it, but it's just one of those books where I feel like I'll read it, put it down, and kind of just move on. I do think I will continue this series as well, but I don't think I'll be like rushing to do so. I still haven't even finished India Holton's other series, so I still need to do that at some point, but I would like to continue this series because I know book 2 is out now and I don't know when the next book is coming out, but I think I'll save it for when I just want something fun and quick and goofy. But yeah, definitely recommend this one. And now that I finished this one, it means that we have officially finished our TBR for the month of May, which feels so good. I feel so accomplished. Like I said, I don't do this every month, so the months that I do, I'm very proud of myself. I'm not gonna lie. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I had already read Julie Chan is Dead and The Rose Bargain. So I'd already read 2 out of the 6 books on my TBR. Then the first book I picked up in this video was Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. I really liked this. This is probably my favorite book out of the ones that I read in this video. I just love Abby Jimenez's writing. Then we read The Wedding People, which I also just really enjoyed. Again, not like one that I think will stick with me long term, but I just had such a great time reading it and I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. I did try and read Deep End and I just decided that this book is not for me, which is totally fine. If it is for you, that is also completely fine. I'm so glad that some of you love this one, but not every book is for everyone, and that's so fine. And then finally we picked up The Ornithologist Field Guide to Love, which I just talked about, 3.5 stars, a great time. So we did it. We finished our monthly TBR, which was the goal of this video, and I honestly still have a few days left in the month. Like, I can just read whatever I want now, which is so fun. But I hope you guys enjoyed hanging out with me for the past week and talking about books. You guys already know, if there's one thing I love to yap about, it's books. But I love you guys so much, and I will see you in my next video very soon. Goodbye.